and I couldn't remember how to tie my tie. And so I had to go to YouTube to figure it out. Been so long since I'd worn one. And Sylvia said, "Oh, how did you learn?" I said, "I think my mother taught me a long time ago." So I'm wearing a tie today on Mother's Day to honor my mother who taught me how to tie a tie.
It's a
I
great
thought
story.
maybe it was because you couldn't get it off.
I could remember for one day.
Have any of those tornadoes danced around Indianapolis anywhere?
Between here and Cincinnati,
They've been up through Oklahoma, Kansas, and Iowa too, haven't they?
Yeah. How about you, Jonathan? Anything close with the tornadoes?
No, we had a lot of storms in the area just on several days in a row. It was just storms and rain and rain and rain, but I don't recall hearing anything about tornadoes in the area. There was some damage, I think, from the wind, blown down trees, that kind of thing, but mercifully nothing to that level.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did anybody see any northern lights?
No.
I slept through them.
What?
I slept through them.
Yeah.
we did that.
Well,
We have
some people
Indianapolis.
here. Dale?
I did.
Oh, cool. With it,
They weren't the kind of spectacular you see in pictures and stuff, but they're still clearly there.
Actually, I saw them in 2014 when I went on a trip to Alaska.
Well, it's almost time to start. Some of you heard me say earlier, Brent will not be with us today. He texted me about 7:30 this morning and said that Nancy had had a bad night, and of course that meant he had a bad night also. And just ask that we keep them in our prayers. So we're going to do things a little differently than what we had originally planned today. I have some music, and then we'll do joys and concerns and announcements, and then have open worship. And since we're doing open worship, I think we'll all end at 10 o'clock instead of having some additional open worship after that. The music I'm going to play, you will scratch your head and say, now, why in the world is she playing that for Mother's Day? But the reason I have chosen the two hymns that I did is because they're favorites of my mother and my grandmother. Coming up with hymns that go along with Mother's Day is a bit of a challenge, so I decided just to play a couple of family favorites. So the first one is my grandmother Perry's favorite hymn, and the last one I'll play is my mom's favorite hymn. As far as I know, the only announcement that needs to be made is that we will have USFW meeting on Wednesday at Valley Mills. So I've already heard from about half the group who won't be able to attend, but hopefully we'll have a good meeting anyway. As I look forward to seeing Norma there, and we'll miss Sue and a number of other people. Are there any other announcements that anybody needs to make? Well, for joys and concerns, obviously Brent and Nancy need to be kept in our thoughts and prayers. Are there any other people that, or other joys that you would like to share?
So Dick
Well-
had his surgery to release his carpal tunnel, and for the first time in like 2 months, we have slept through the night 3 nights in a row, and I feel as though it's had a profound effect on my mentality. So thank you for all your prayers.
My niece's daughter in Colorado just had twins this past week, and they are doing just fabulous. Both, well, one is over 4 pounds, the other one is just barely over 5. So they're doing great. This happens to be her second set of twins,
Wow.
plus an extra. It's like,
Well, if you would mute yourselves so that we don't get any kind of feedback or whatever, that would be helpful. And let's enter some open worship. Remember these joys and concerns, and if you feel led to share something, please do so.
Okay, when I'm thinking about Mother's Day, I think of course, my own mother and her family. She was the oldest of 10. And I think I had an amazing grandmother on that side who was pregnant off and on for 20 years and raised 10 children admirably. Anyway, Mother always quilted. She was a part of the Busy Bees at West Newton Church, and she always had a quilting frame set up in our tiny little farmhouse. And she made me what I would call a lap cover, which was a small quilt. I use it today when I sit in my recliner to take a little rest. I pull that little quilt up, and across the top, she embroidered the initials for my grandmother, which was her mother. Mother also embroidered the initials for herself, and she embroidered the initials for me. So the three of us have our initials on that quilt, and every time I pull that quilt toward me, I think of my grandmother, my mother, and she dated it as 1981. My birthday's in February, so apparently she gave it to me for my birthday that year. And so it's a very special quilt for remembering my grandmother, my mother, and myself.
So, at Wellesley, we always read on this day the original Mother's Day statement from Julia Ward Howard, I always get that wrong. And in which she exhorted other mothers to join with her in seeking peace, in demanding peace. It is a very unvarnished statement about the necessity of peace and how it should be our highest value. Kind of funny, because I think she also wrote, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. But in any case, you know, one of the things she says is, we will not welcome back our sons with open arms when they are covered with the blood of other mothers' sons. And that we as women and mothers love each other too much to allow this to continue. We're talking 150 years ago, and it seems some days I feel as though we're no closer to peace now than we were then. And I just, I used to have a coffee mug that said, if you want peace, work for justice, which is a general concept I'm okay with. But it does seem to me as though we have to make peace and love our highest values above all other values, so that we can live out the life that Jesus asked us to. Because Jesus didn't go around saying, oh, those darn Romans. He said, he loved Romans if they gave him a chance. And we can do the same. We have that divine spark in us that knows how to do it if we but let ourselves.
the mother of Dave and me, had a creativity and a sense of humor most people didn't know about. She had a way with children that was pretty special. And I ran across the other day a letter from one of the parents, as she was a teacher, and one of the parents of a second grade child, that said something like, my son had a really rough year last year and thought no one liked him, especially the teacher. Excuse me. But you brought out the best in him and you made him like school again. And I just want to thank you for that. She did things like when Kyle was, her grandson Kyle was 3 years old, I think 3. And they had just moved into their new house on Ralston Road. Kyle made a lovely picture on the wall with a marker, or maybe a crayon, and Mother walked up to him and said, "Give me that." And Kyle fearfully and carefully handed over the marker, and Mother drew a frame around that picture and gave it back to him and said, "Now sign your name, please. You're the artist." I don't know any other mother that would have responded quite like that in a new house with a drawing on the wall, a permanent drawing on the wall. I remember looking through the Montgomery Ward catalog and saying, "Mother, I want that. Oh, Mother, I want that. Mother, I want that too." And she handed me the scissors and said, "Okay, cut them out. You can have them." And that was just kind of the way she approached some of the unusual situations we were in. We couldn't afford all those things that I wanted out of the catalog, that's for sure. So what she didn't share with us openly was how strong her faith was and what she cherished about the Bible. She told me she didn't want me to read parts of it until I was an adult, that there are many parts of the Bible that are not appropriate for children. And so it's okay if I didn't read the whole thing. And later, after she passed away, I found her Bible next to her bed. And I was privileged to some of the notes that she'd written in the margins of the Bible. And I could tell that she had chosen as some of her favorite parts, some of the same parts that I think are my favorites, including the fruits of the Spirit and about the little children coming and being like a child when we come to God. And so I honor her for all those wonderfully creative thoughts that she shared with me and our siblings and the children at the school.
Loving God, we thank you for this opportunity to be together. The time to remember our mothers and our experiences being mothers, whether that's to our own biological children or to somebody else's children. We still have had many blessings in that way, and we thank you. Be with Brent and Nancy in a special way this week as they're struggling with health, and guide us all as you would have us to go. Amen. Good to see everybody, as always.
Yeah, good to see everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Those two hymns you played, Lynn, were two of my favorites as well. And probably a lot of people's favorites.
Hard to go wrong with those two.